So we got this article you sent over, 5 Harsh Truths That Motivate Me.
By WheezyWaiter.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And, it really got us thinking, someone who's been doing the YouTube thing for what, like almost 2
A
decades,
long time, yeah.
just laying it all out there, all the struggles,
Yeah.
procrastination, anxiety, just that feeling of being overwhelmed creatively.
That's something we can all relate to.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But what's really interesting is how the whole article kind of flips it and says these harsh realities, they can actually be this like source of motivation.
Right. It's kind of like, swallowing a bitter pill. It doesn't taste great going down, but then you get this like unexpected energy boost from it.
I like that analogy. So for this deep dive, what we're really aiming for is to like dissect each of these 5 truths and go kind of beyond just the surface, to get to some really actionable stuff that our listeners can actually use in their own lives.
Exactly. Whether they're working on a creative project or dealing with their career or even just trying to, figure things out on a personal level, we want to turn these harsh truths into something actually helpful.
All right, so let's jump right in. The first one is nobody cares.
Or, to be more precise, nobody cares as much as you think they do.
Right, right. I mean, just reading that, it kind of sounds a bit brutal, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It's blunt. But what it's getting at is actually pretty profound. And, it's the idea that most people are just so focused on their own lives,
Yeah.
their own problems, their own little wins, their own to-do list. That never seems to end.
Totally. And because of that, the way we sometimes think everyone is scrutinizing us and everything we do, it's just not actually happening.
It's more in our heads.
Yeah, exactly. And think about all the energy we waste worrying about, looking perfect or what other people will think.
Right. When you internalize this truth, it's like you suddenly free up all that energy.
And then you can just focus on the doing.
Exactly. Just creating, taking action, and maybe even kind of paradoxically connecting with others more authentically.
I know, I've totally been there, like agonizing over a social media post or an email for hours, thinking everyone's going to pick it apart, but then it's like crickets.
It just fades into the background noise.
Exactly. But what I like about how the article talks about this is that it frames it as a positive thing. Like, this realization can be freeing.
It is. It's like a huge weight lifted off your shoulders.
It is. So much of what holds us back, all that self-consciousness and fear of judgment comes from thinking that we're always under the spotlight.
Yeah.
But if you really get that most people aren't actually paying that much attention, then you can just be yourself.
Exactly. You're free to experiment, be more bold in your work, and stop worrying so much about what other people think.
It's about pleasing yourself.
That's it. Following your own compass, not someone else's.
There's this analogy in the article that really stuck with me, the sandcastle analogy.
Oh, yeah, I like that one.
So it's like you're on this massive beach and you're putting your heart and soul into building this elaborate sandcastle.
And to you, it's the most important thing in the world.
Exactly. But everyone else is just chilling, working on their tan, watching the waves. To them, it's just another sandcastle.
Right.
But the point is, you should still build it.
Yes. You build it because you want to, because you enjoy it, because it's fulfilling for you.
And if other people happen to appreciate it, that's great, but it's not the main reason you're doing it.
It's a bonus.
Yeah. And this is so important for creativity because it shifts your motivation. You're not looking for external rewards. It's all about the internal satisfaction.
And that's a more sustainable source of creativity in the long run.
Okay, so harsh truth number 1, nobody cares as much as you think they do. And that's actually a good thing.
Right. It's liberating.
So let's move on to the second truth, which, well, it's a bit tougher to swallow.
Yeah, this one might sting a little bit. You're not special?
That's it. And, on the surface, it doesn't sound very encouraging.
No, not really. But there's a deeper message here, and it's actually a good one. It's not saying that you don't have anything unique to offer.
Okay.
What it's saying is that those feelings we all have, of not being good enough, of not being ready, that's a universal experience.
Like everyone feels that way.
Pretty much, yeah. It's part of being human.
So it's not about putting yourself down. It's more about recognizing that everyone struggles with these things.
Exactly. We all have those insecurities.
And when you realize that, it's less isolating. It's like, okay, I'm not the only one.
And it allows you to be more compassionate both to yourself and to others.
Right. It's that voice in our head, the one that says, I'm not skilled enough, or I don't have the right qualifications, or someone else could do this so much better.
And it's so easy to get stuck in that negative self-talk loop.
Yeah. And we compare ourselves to others, and we only see their successes or highlight reel. But we don't see all the behind-the-scenes struggles they're going through.
We all have them. It's just that most people don't show those parts of their lives.
Right. But when you realize that even the people you admire, they've probably felt the same way, it kind of levels the playing field.
Definitely. And it should give you the courage to keep going, even when you feel those doubts creeping in.
I love how the article turns that question around. Instead of why me, it's why not me.
Exactly. Everyone starts somewhere, and most likely, they started feeling just as uncertain and unprepared as you do right now.
And that brings us to a really important point. Achievement, success, it's not reserved for some special group of people.
Everyone had the potential.
Yeah, we all have the capacity to learn, to grow, to create amazing things. And recognizing that those feelings of inadequacy, they're normal. It shouldn't stop you.
It should actually motivate you to keep going, to keep learning, to keep striving.
So we've got nobody cares as much as you think, and you're not special in the sense that everyone feels those same doubts and fears.
Right.
Now, let's move on to the third truth. Life is what you make it. And this one, we hear it all the time.
Yeah, it's almost become a cliche.
But the article seems to be saying something a little different with it, Like, it's not just about positive thinking. It's about actually taking control.
Yes, absolutely. It's not just a passive affirmation. It's about actively taking responsibility for your life.
Yeah.
And it emphasizes that you're not given a script. You have to write your own.
Okay.
You can't just sit around and wait for purpose or motivation to magically appear. You are the author of your own life.
I think so many people, myself included sometimes, fall into this trap of waiting for the right moment, the perfect opportunity,
Yeah.
or thinking that one day they'll just wake up and feel inspired. But this truth is like a wake-up call.
You have to make things happen.
You do. You have to be proactive in creating the life you want. And the article gives some really concrete examples of what that could look like.
Right, like moving to a new city, starting a passion project, working on developing a more positive and resilient mindset.
And these are all things that require action. It's about making decisions and following through.
Exactly. Not just wishing for things to be different, but actually taking steps to make them different.
And it highlights specific tools that we can use, like journaling, meditation, exercise.
And sometimes it's about making big life changes.
Which can be scary. But this truth, life is what you make it. It shifts the power dynamic.
It does. It takes the power away from external forces and puts it right back in your own hands.
Okay, so we're halfway through. Ready for the next one?
Let's do it.
This one is definitely attention-grabbing and maybe a little bit unsettling. You're gonna die.
Yeah, it's not subtle.
Not at all. But the article uses it as a reminder, like that Latin phrase, memento mori.
Remember that you will die.
Right. And, it might seem kind of morbid, but the point is to bring a sense of urgency to how we're living our lives.
Exactly. It's about reminding ourselves that our time is precious and finite.
Mm-hmm.
And when you really face that reality, it can help you focus on what truly matters. It helps you cut through all the noise, all the trivial stuff that we tend to get caught up in.
The article talks about those common regrets that people have at the end of their lives, like wishing they hadn't worked so much and had spent more time with loved ones.
Right, really connecting with the people who matter most.
And it's a good reminder to ask ourselves what's really important in the long run, not just what seems urgent right now.
But it's not about just giving up everything and living recklessly.
Right.
It's about finding a balance. It's about pursuing your ambitions, but also making time for joy and connection.
Yeah, I love that ice cream metaphor in the article. Like, sometimes it's okay to just enjoy the simple things.
You don't have to be in a constant state of striving and productivity.
Exactly. It's a reminder to be present, to appreciate what we have, and not to put off happiness for some imaginary someday.
It's about living a life that reflects your values, not just your to-do list.
Okay, so we've contemplated our mortality.
We've all got an expiration date?
We do. So let's get to the fifth and final truth. Regrets are worse than failure. And I think this one is especially relevant for anyone who's ever felt hesitant to take a risk.
Absolutely, because what it's saying is that it's better to try and maybe fail than to never try at all.
And I think that's because failure, while it's not fun, it's usually temporary.
Yeah.
And you learn from it.
You gain experience, you figure out what works and what doesn't, and you move on.
But regret, especially the regret of not trying, that can stick with you for a long time.
It can eat away at you.
It can. And it's that constant what if that can be so painful.
Yeah, what if I had tried? What if I had taken that chance?
The article uses this great image of a regret monster. Like, it's this thing that lurks in the shadows and just keeps nagging at you.
And it feeds on those missed opportunities, those things you didn't do.
And the advice the article gives, throw try water at it. It's so simple, but so powerful. Just take action, even if you're scared.
Even if you're not sure it will work out. Because even if you fail, at least you'll know.
Yeah, you'll have an answer, and you'll have the experience.
And you'll have avoided feeding that regret monster.
And you've answered those what-if questions.
Exactly. It's about realizing that the potential pain of regret is often worse than the discomfort of trying.
So we've gone through all 5 of these harsh truths. And at the end of the article, the creator talks about how he finally finished this documentary he had been working on for years. It was about Japanese Green Bay Packers fans, which is a pretty unique topic.
Yeah, sounds interesting.
It does, and it sounds like these principles, these harsh truths, they actually helped him overcome whatever was holding him back.
And in the end, he avoided the regret of leaving that project unfinished.
Exactly. And I think it shows how these truths, even though they might seem kind of negative at first, can actually be really empowering.
It's about facing reality, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, and then using that to fuel your actions.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what we really want you to take away is that these harsh truths are tools. Tools for motivation, for getting unstuck, for creating the life you want.
It's about cutting through all the self-deception, looking at things clearly, and then using that clarity to move forward.
So here's something for you to think about. Of these 5 harsh truths, which one resonates with you the most right now? Which one really speaks to where you are in your life?
And how can you use that truth, that understanding, to take even just one small step today, a step that will help you avoid future regret or move you closer to something that truly matters to you?
It's a question worth pondering.
It is.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Until next time.